You know the story we've all been told, right? That to reach peak performance, to hit those huge goals, it's all about grit. It's about just grinding it out, pushing harder, and having more willpower than everyone else. But what if that entire story is kind of wrong? What if there's a smarter, more effective, and honestly a more joyful way to get there? Let's explore that path.
Just read this sentence. It comes from a study in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology, and it completely flips the script. The people with the most self-control are the ones who use raw willpower the least. I know, it sounds totally backward, doesn't it? But understanding this is the key to unlocking a whole new way of thinking about discipline.
So this is really the core idea we're going to unpack today. We are moving away from that old myth, that constant, draining battle of just grit and willpower, and we're stepping into a new reality, one that's actually backed by science and built on smart habits and getting into that incredible state of peak performance called flow.
Okay, so first things first, let's really break down why that old way, that grind-it-out mentality, fails so many of us. There are some serious hidden costs to constantly trying to force your way to discipline.
When your only tool is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. And when your only tool is willpower, you end up paying a really heavy price. It leads you straight to burnout and chronic stress. It absolutely fuels perfectionism, or any little mistake feels like the end of the world. And instead of learning from setbacks, you just see them as proof that you're not good enough, which, of course, just creates this awful cycle of anxiety.
And here's where it gets really fascinating. We all know that negative stuff like getting frustrated or angry can throw us off. But get this, it's not just the bad feelings. Dr. David Udell points out that even really pleasant emotions like excitement and happiness can be just as disruptive. He gives this incredible example of a young baseball player. He smacks this massive home run on opening day, and the pure joy and excitement from that one moment completely wrecks his rhythm. He gets carried away, he loses focus, and his performance actually tanks for the rest of the season. It's a perfect illustration that peak performance isn't just about managing the bad feelings, it's about managing all of them.
So if just pushing harder and relying on willpower isn't the answer, then what is? Well, the whole game changes with one fundamental shift in how you see yourself and your own abilities. It all starts right here. I want you to think about it like this. What if self-control isn't some finite resource like gas in your car that just runs out? What if it's more like a muscle? Yeah, it gets tired after a tough workout, for sure. But that feeling of fatigue, that's the signal that it's actually growing stronger. This idea is what researchers call a growth mindset of self-regulation. And it's really just a simple but incredibly powerful belief that your ability to be disciplined isn't some fixed trait you were born with. It's a skill. And just like any other skill, you can develop it with practice and effort. And here is the absolute crucial difference. It changes how you interpret the feeling of effort itself. If you have a fixed mindset, feeling tired is a stop sign. It screams, "I'm done, that's my limit." But with a growth mindset, that exact same feeling of fatigue is a progress report. It means, wow, this is tough, which means I'm getting stronger. It totally reframes the entire experience.
And this chart just shows you the results in black and white. In this study, people could choose between easy and difficult math problems. The folks with a fixed mindset did what most of us would do. They took the easy way out. But look at the growth mindset group. They chose the hard problems almost 50% of the time. They actively sought out the challenge because they saw it as a chance to grow. That's a game changer.
Okay, so once you've got that foundational growth mindset in place, you can start using a much smarter set of tools for discipline, ones that don't rely on brute force. Let's start with the first two, habits and self-compassion. Hey, remember that quote from the beginning, that the most disciplined people use willpower the least? Well, this is how they do it. They build habits. Instead of constantly fighting temptation and making draining decisions, they automate the good choices. They put them on autopilot, so they take up almost zero mental energy.
And building them is actually pretty straightforward. First, you start ridiculously small. An action so tiny you literally can't say no to it. Second, you shape your environment. Put your gym clothes right by your bed, hide the junk food, make the good choice the easiest choice. And third, use something called habit stacking. Just link your new habit to one you already have, like doing 1 minute of meditation right after your morning coffee. Simple.
But let's be real for a second. Even with the best habits in the world, you're going to have an off day. You're going to fall off track. It's just part of being human. So what do you do then? The old school answer is to beat yourself up about it. But there is a much, much better way.
This is where our second tool, self-compassion,
comes in, and it is so important. Self-compassion is not about being lazy or letting yourself off the hook. It is actually a way better motivator than being hard on yourself. When you can look at a mistake with a little understanding instead of a lot of judgment, it lets you actually learn from it and get back on track, instead of just spiraling into shame and giving up completely.
So we have the right mindset, we have the right tools. Now let's talk about the ultimate goal here, reaching that peak state of performance where discipline actually feels effortless, maybe even joyful. This is the science of flow.
You know this feeling. The term was coined by the legendary psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi. Flow is that incredible state where you are so completely absorbed in what you're doing that the rest of the world just melts away. Time disappears. The work itself becomes the reward. It's awesome.
Now you might think that flow is just this random thing, like lightning in a bottle that you just have to hope for. But the best part, the most empowering part, is that that's just not true. A huge review of research on elite athletes found something amazing. Flow isn't random. It can actually be trained.
Just look at this. The data is so clear. They found that specific psychological training methods directly lead to more flow states. Mental imagery? Yep, increased flow and better performance. Hypnosis? Same thing. And look at mindfulness. It led to a significant increase in flow, which, no surprise, also led to better performance. This tells us there is a direct, trainable path to making hard work feel effortless.
All right, let's pull all these amazing pieces together. This is your path forward. It's a way to go after your biggest goals that is not only more effective and sustainable, but genuinely more enjoyable. So, here it is, your toolkit for joyful performance. It all starts with that shift to a growth mindset, seeing effort as growth, not a dead end. Then you build those automated habits to make the right choices easy and save your mental energy. You practice self-compassion so you can bounce back from any setbacks. And finally, you actively train for flow to make that discipline feel effortless.
And that really leaves us with this one last thought to chew on. The old way of thinking about discipline is about fighting a war against yourself. This new way is about understanding and working with yourself. So I'll just ask you, what could you really, truly achieve if that path to your biggest goals felt less like a battle and more like a joy?